The following featured presentation is part of the Skywalking Network.
This is what you can look forward to on this musical episode 569 of Skywalking Through Neverland.
No.
Would never have thought of it.
Never would have thought of it.
Would have been like, oh, that's not what
It felt off limits for Star Wars.
What is the best piece of advice your dad ever gave you and the worst piece of advice your dad ever gave you?
Honestly, I still have a hard time calling myself a composer because I'm like, that sounds so lofty. Like, I'm not, it's such a big word, composer. I mean, my mother tells people I'm a composer.
Are you ready?
Welcome to Neverland.
Here we go.
A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away.
To all who come to this happy place, welcome. Disneyland is your land.
When I first made Star Wars, everybody in Hollywood said, well, this is a movie Disney should have made.
You're more than just fans. You're family.
Best day ever!
Secrets love. It's about family, and that's what's so powerful about it.
Hey.
When you use a bird to write with, it's called tweeting.
When we visit the world of Disney, we never grow old. It's a Peter Pan, Neverland that keeps us young in heart.
This is Jedi Master Obi-Wan Kenobi, and you are skywalking through Neverland. I have a good feeling about this.
Hey, Skywalkers! Do you want to know what goes into your favorite scores like AHSOKA, SPIDER-NOIR, Supergirl, and the upcoming Marvel series, VisionQuest? Well then, you came to the right podcast.
We spoke with the Kiner family, including Kevin Kiner. We spoke with Mick Giacchino, Claudia Sarne, and the powerhouse team of Kris Bowers and Michael Dean Parsons at San Diego Comic-Con. And we had some really fun conversations.
Composers, they like to talk.
Yes!
They like to talk about music, they like to get right into it, and we were the perfect audience for that. But until then, we want to welcome you back to Skywalking Through Neverland. I am Richard Woloski, but now everyone please say hello to my sweetie wife Sarah, who was just over the moon talking to all these composers.
Oh, it was so fun. We got to ask them all sorts of questions on Bridgerton, on Supergirl.
And Bridgerton.
And more Bridgerton.
And more Bridgerton.
And AHSOKA and Thrawn. And wow, it was great. So, if you haven't already, please subscribe to Skywalking Through Neverland on YouTube to see all the clips and additions that we put into the video version of the show. Skywalking Through Neverland is a proud Laughing Place partner podcast, and you'll see our shows posted at laughingplace.com, and you can visit laughingplace.com for all your Disney news and opinions. So now it's time. Richard, are you ready?
I'm always ready for a good Wookiee hug.
Yes, it's time for your weekly Wookiee hug. And your little sprinkle of pixie dust for our very special family of Skywalkers.
Now, we are your enthusiastic podcast destination for the many decades of your Star Wars, Disney, and Marvel fandom. All right, now, we are being sponsored by Small World Vacations, and they are a diamond-level Disney vacation planner travel agency and can help you book your trip to a Disney park around the world, a Disney cruise, or to the Universal theme parks. And what is this going to cost you? Not a cent, not a nickel, not a dime, if you still use change these days. So head over there to smallworldvacations.com for a no-obligation price quote and tell them where you want to go, because once again, it doesn't cost you anything to use their services.
But you have to tell them that Skywalking Through Neverland sent
I
you.
was going to get to that one. I just want to let everyone know, because what do you get these days for free? You got to pay for your vacation, but their service at Small World Vacations doesn't cost you a cent.
Yes, indeed. Spirit Jersey has their own Star Wars and Disney license you can buy outside the parks. They have a Jar Jar Spirit Jersey.
That was an exclusive at Comic-Con. I wonder if they're going to sell that.
Oh, so at Comic-Con, it was an exclusive that was maroon and gold. Online, they have a Jar Jar that's with color. Oh. So it's colors. So you can head to spiritjersey.com and get free shipping with the code SKYWLKNVD.
All right, we are recording this from Long Beach, California on August the 3rd, 2026. So, Sarah, we are just, hours away from leaving for Rebel Scum Con 3 in Frisco, Texas.
Yes.
So, hope to see a lot of Skywalkers there. And if you're going to be there, don't forget to come by our Force Feud game show, which will take place Saturday, August the 8th at 3 p.m. in Panel Room B. We're going to be playing with Star Wars content creators, such as Explore the Force, the Hyperdrive Star Wars YouTube channel, Light Force Podcast, Star Wars Explained, Jedi News, The Force of Others, Dyad and the Force, Fantha Tracks, Mocktails from the Cantina, and Eric Walker from All for Sci-Fi.
Wow. Plus, we'll also be doing our pop-up trivia at some point during the weekend.
You never know. Just listen for the yelling and screaming.
It's pop-up trivia, which
Yes.
means it could pop up
At any time.
Then, a week later, on August 14th through 16th, we will be at D23 Expo in Anaheim at the Anaheim Convention Center. We will also be doing our pop-up trivia at some point as well, and we are very excited about this. We're going to be at the Honda Center on all 3 days. So if you're at the Honda Center, let us know. If you're at D23, let us know.
In the Honda Center, that's where they have the big presentations.
Yes.
They're the rooms at the Anaheim Convention Center can no longer fit us.
No.
So they get to move us to like a huge arena.
Uh-huh. It's quite fun. It's quite the spectacle.
Very, very roomy.
Yes.
All right. Now let's get into our first discussion with Kevin, Sean, and Deana Kiner, where we talk Rebels, AHSOKA Season 2, and the haunting music of Grand Admiral Thrawn.
So excited to talk to you about Star Wars Rebels specifically,
Oh.
and Thrawn's theme in Star Wars Rebels and Ahsoka. It gave us these Dracula chills.
Right.
And so what was the process of writing this theme and settling on the foreboding organ as the instrument for him?
Well, Dave Filoni suggested the organ.
Okay.
And then I'll give it to Sean because he wound up executing most of it.
Okay.
Yeah, mainly for Rebels. I think that the direction that we wanted to go for was like Thrawn is a Moriarty in a universe without a Sherlock, right? And so like he thinks that he's the good guy, right? And we wanted to like communicate that a little bit. So it's not completely villainous the whole time. You'll notice there's a lot of major elements in there, but I think that overall it ends up being very intimidating. It fills up the room with that sound. But it was actually Deana in Ahsoka that did the majority of the Thrawn stuff.
Oh yeah, we were just trying to like capture the scope of like where he was at in this new place and doing these new things and conniving. Just like the way that the arpeggiation happens in the organ is like just kind of trying to match the way that his mind is working.
Oh,
Yeah.
right, like clockwork.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, the organ I know, the arpeggios.
Mhm.
There's so much
Mhm.
more of those.
So do 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 do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So great. So you
Beautiful
started
singer.
It, you developed it, and you developed it.
And
for
Dave
them.
Filoni suggested the organ.
Yeah, it was him.
Okay.
He was-
Okay. Would you have chosen the organ?
No.
Would never have thought of it.
Never would have thought of
Would have
it.
been like, oh, that's not
It felt off limits for Star Wars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Especially back in those days. I mean, this is before Mandalorian, I believe, wasn't it?
Yes.
So nobody had done anything really that unusual. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's good to know.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's talk about Ahsoka because she has
Sure.
had huge growth as a character since 2008. We've been following you since the very beginning. And can you describe how you've developed her themes over the years?
So her theme was the first thing I wrote for George. And I remember that she was sitting alone in her little berth on in a dark area on her bunk. And yeah, she was like a little girl. Exactly when you say, ooh, yeah, she was a little tiny girl thrust into this war, kind of a Jedi, but not yet, but definitely force-sensitive person, trying to figure herself out. And it just came to me, and I wound up using a Japanese flute called the shakuhachi for her theme when I first wrote it, because there was kind of a softness to it, that instrument, and she is a little girl, but I think there's also strength, and there's also a little darkness in her theme too. I mean, it's in D minor, or G minor, I'm sorry. So it's not, happy for sure. But it's not sad either. It's what I described.
I feel like it's got a lot of emotion. That was really cool that you did that.
Yeah.
And then to develop it further as she's developing into an adult, to this like grizzled veteran, right? Deana and I, we sat down for Tales of the Jedi actually, and we're thinking like, okay, what's like we were watching a lot of like samurai cinema. And we were thinking, okay, how do we take the building blocks that Kevin established with Ahsoka, and take her to this new place, right? And then we developed what we call her Ronin theme.
Yeah. With
which
the drums, right?
With the
with
and the pedaling.
The kind of dun 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 dun
right.
dun
okay.
dun.
Which features
dun,
if you listen to the end credits of the first season of Ahsoka,
Yes.
features heavily.
The first season, not the second season.
There's a lot of moving parts.
Things are changing. Things are changing. And better. Musically.
Really? Tell us
I
more.
didn't think it could be better musically. I'll just say it's better. I'll say I was terrified to start season 2 because I think it's some of the best music we've ever written for season 1, and I didn't think we could do that again. But we all feel, we're mixing it right now, and we all feel like we're better.
Oh my gosh, how exciting. Deana, did you have anything to say about the Ahsoka theme?
Mostly just the way that I get to play with her flute. One of the things that happened with season 1 was we were trying to push ourselves and like trying to figure out ways to expand her theme, like the way we did with the Tales of the Jedi. And I just felt like I needed to play it myself for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And I started playing flute because like I play saxophone already. It's close enough. But yeah, it was like this way to like push myself as she like was pushing herself in her new, in the new place that she is. And just like the way that I get to express with her and like match and play to her while I'm watching and playing.
That's so amazing.
Yeah.
So you're on the soundtrack, obviously.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Deana's all over the soundtrack,
Yeah.
and especially in the beginnings of the show when it shows the title Ahsoka. Many times that's her playing maybe 5 different flutes in 5 different ways and whirling around, and not even tonal, but maybe whoo, 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 whoo. These won't translate very well to print. But I don't know.
It's all good. So, final question. How does your process change for a live action project as opposed to animation?
I don't think for me it doesn't. You have a bigger budget for the live action stuff, so you're at major recording studios with major orchestras all the time. I mean, we still get to use some orchestra in the animated projects, but not all the time. I think we have a little more time. There's a little more scrutiny, but in terms of the dramatic approach, for me, it's no different.
I feel like traditionally, how it used to be is that for animation, you're missing a lot of like nonverbal like performance from actors. So traditionally, you have to do more in animation music than you do in live, where you can just kind of let the performance be there. But as like Lucasfilm animation has progressed, we find ourselves scoring things pretty much exactly the same way because there is so much of that. There's so much character and expression, nonverbal expression from the characters.
You don't have to hold the audience's hand, really.
The nuance in the animation has really become just like live action. And they get to do so much and have these vast battles and like lightsaber fights that you would never be able to in a live action part. But then there's an aspect of the live action approach that we can really take our time and be very measured and not have to really push the music and tell the whole story with it. We can give it space to breathe.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you. I'm Kevin.
I'm Sean.
I'm Deana Kiner.
And we're Skywalking through Neverland. I think we did it.
Thank you guys.
All right.
So you were really excited to speak with the Kiners.
Yes.
You were bouncing off the walls. And you really wanted to get to the bottom of Thrawn's origin story about his music.
Yes. Okay, so backing it up even, so the Kiners were going to have a panel 2 years ago at Comic-Con on the Sunday, and that was the Sunday we had earmarked to go to Midsummer Scream, and I was so sad because I really wanted to interview them. So ever since then, I had been looking and seeing, and this year it turned out that they had a panel on a day we were going to be there at the convention. So it was like, oh, thank goodness, now we get to talk to them. So yes, and I wanted to speak to them about Thrawn's theme, honestly, because of you, Richard. Because you were struck by the music of Star Wars Rebels with Thrawn's theme. You were like, what's that organ? That's so cool. And I remember having our discussions about it on the podcast. We had special music segments on Star Wars Rebels.
Yeah, because it gave you those Dracula chills.
Yeah. So that's what I really wanted to get to the bottom of. And I thought their reaction to that question was so interesting. Now, the fact that Deana Kiner said it felt off limits for Star Wars to do an organ.
Yeah, but what do you think about their answer that it wasn't their idea, but Dave Filoni's idea to use the organ?
I think that makes sense. As we've seen, Dave Filoni knows his film music.
Yeah.
And he has opinions about it. Like, even I think for the Purgles, he wanted them to use a particular piece, The Pines of Rome, which builds and builds and builds for 10 minutes. And that's kind of what the Purgles are, these big creatures, and that's what it evokes.
Yeah, and I'm sure when Dave Filoni said, how about an organ? Dean was like, I thought we couldn't use the organ.
Yeah.
I thought we couldn't use it.
Yeah, it was
funny.
really neat. Yep. All right, well, next up is Mick Giacchino, who is the son of Michael Giacchino, and he dives in deep with his new score for the upcoming Disney Plus Marvel series VisionQuest. And at the panel right before this, he debuted the music, the theme for VisionQuest.
May I put this on?
Sure, yeah.
Awesome.
Where do you want it? Yeah.
Thank you. Nice shirt.
Thank you so much. I just got it.
It's very Nick Wilde.
Oh, you know what? It is. It very much is. I didn't realize that. Yeah.
All right, so we're so excited to hear about VisionQuest, and we got a little tease there in the panel. Can you tease any elements of like WandaVision or Agatha All Along that you might have inspired you or used?
Yeah. Well, I mean, first off, those shows are incredible,
Yes.
and I absolutely love those scores. And so definitely we talked about kind of making sure we wanted to make sure we were doing those shows justice in the moments where it felt right. So you may hear some familiar stuff here and there, but ultimately the show is really kind of just family. It's family therapy is this whole show, and so we definitely branch off from there as well. And but you should expect to hear a few familiar themes. I mean, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I guess like branching off of that question, is it hard to think of like a new theme to come up with where there's been maybe like everybody knows this iconic score?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, because you want to be respectful of what came before, but also you want to try to do something new as well, and evolve with the characters. And so I think it's really just ultimately about what the show itself needs, and again, and there are a couple moments here and there where it needed a little bit of WandaVision, a couple moments here and there where it needed a little bit of Agatha, or kind of like, and yeah, it's really case by case, yeah.
So you mentioned in VisionQuest we have both Vision and Ultron. How did you approach each of their themes, and how are either similar or different?
Yeah, they both kind of evolve over time. I mean, Vision kind of, we have a few, there's like one or two heroic statements kind of at the beginning, but it's really, he's this broken character. So it's rare that you hear it the way that you hear it in the, as we played in the panel. I mean, that's what plays at the end credits every time, but it's, it was also designed to be small and intimate, and same with Ultron as well. There's times where it can be darker and broodier. There's times where it can be more operatic. There's times where it can be just small and intimate and interlock with some other character themes as well. And so, I always like to try my best to use the character themes in different ways so that they can reflect the emotional arcs of the characters.
I was very interested in what you said about bringing voice in for the first time, and I would like to hear more about how you use voice as an instrument and how you integrate that with the
yeah. So that was that was a request from the showrunner Terry Metalis was choir, and so I got excited again. I was like, I've never worked with the choir. This is fun. And so, there were moments where, in some of the more emotional moments, I had the choir double what the strings were doing but with humming. And so at times, I mean, it almost can, the texture can almost sound like one of those old Disney films, like, and kind of the prologues. But it just kind of gave a really nice kind of warmth to the strings and filled out the sound a little bit. But then there's also times where vocals are leading with melodies, and there's like one character who has a theme that's more based around vocals at times, and then it transitions into the orchestra, and sometimes it's on synth. It really depends on the context, but yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, so in the Penguin, you use
Yes.
strings so much, like as a primary instrument. Why? Is there a reason for that?
Yes. Well, okay. So part of it was a practical reason, because part of it was, it's, obviously this is coming off the world of the Batman, and the Batman has a very, very orchestral score, but we didn't have the budget for the same size orchestra, so I was like, all right, we're not going to have the full brass. We're going to have to rely on strings. And when I was kind of making my playlist for just in terms of inspiration, one of the things I was listening to was Psycho, and I was like, well, he's a psychopath, and that score, only strings. And I was like, oh, I like that. They can do a lot with this. And also, Penguin's, Batman's very grand and kind of, big, and the Penguin was more intimate, and so the brass wasn't always something that was necessary. We did have 2 trombones and a French horn that would kind of come in and out of the score. It was used sparingly, so it was like kind of as he kind of became more monstrous, those would kind of start to come into play a little bit more. But it was fun to kind of restrain myself to just the string section, because I had to get creative with textures and trying to figure out how can I make this work in the context, but with just the strings. So yeah, and also I kind of liked that, the idea of the string quartet. Oz, all he wants to do is be accepted and be revered, and he comes from a poor family and wants to rise to the top, and string quartets are usually associated with high class, but I wanted to kind of dirty it up a little bit and make it a little bit frenetic, so it's like this thing that he's reaching for, but it's also he kind of just is thinking on his feet and always just making impulsive decisions, and try to reflect that in the music.
So you've been able to play in a lot of different sound boxes, Star Wars, Marvel, DC. How much of each of those universes kind of have their sound that you're trying to respect versus how much you're able to kind of bring into that?
Yeah. For all 3 of them, honestly, like kind of the projects were unique in the sense that, like, I mean, Penguin was not this. It's not a superhero thing. It's definitely more of a crime drama, and it's more grounded, and so. That they definitely didn't want the big fanfare stuff, and so that kind of just was like, all right, well, this is easy to kind of just like figure out some, like, let's put ourselves in a box in terms of our sound palette and figure out from there. Skeleton Crew was similar, where at the beginning I was like, I'm so overwhelmed. This is Star Wars. This is like, creme de la creme of film scores. Like, how do I do anything with this? And then I kind of started to realize, I was like, well, it's not really Star Wars. It's a bunch of kids who get lost, and it's really about them just trying to get home and happenstancing into an adventure on the way. So it's really more in the line of like Goonies or E.T. and which are also intimidating, but it was still, I looked at it from a smaller scale of like, these are just kids trying to get home to their families. And also stepping into a children's book as well, in a fantasy, in a story that will take you off on an adventure. So that also kind of was like, all right, we can lean into the Star Wars thing at sometimes, but it's really more this other thing. And then for Vision, it was again, like, also another, Terry was weary about making it sound too much just like a superhero thing at times, because it's really family therapy, and it's about. It's also very much a sci-fi story as well. So there's mystery, and that kind of informed that one. So it's nice to break them out of the franchise itself and more to what is this specific project.
The way that you described VisionQuest, it sounded a little bit like Pinocchio becoming a real boy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, the working title is Tin Man. So it's like it's all about looking for a heart.
So.
Then they reference Pinocchio a lot, like in Old Age of Ultron. There's like little quotes here and there and stuff. But yeah.
So
Got No Strings on Me. Yeah.
So you talked about the loneliness, you talked about the sort of liminality of being between not a human and a human. How does that reflect over the course of the development?
Yeah, well, so that was one thing that I wanted to, obviously he's a synthezoid, so there's, I wanted to make sure that there was an organic element to this as well, because of just the nature of how he was built, and also just connects you more to the human side, but then also a synthetic side as well, just to kind of play to that. So what I ended up doing a lot of too was using, there's this guitar pedal that I love called the Microcosm by this company named Hologram, where I would record my, like I started off with just the samples of like the flutes or strings. I would play them through this pedal, what I wrote through this pedal, and it kind of takes what you play and chops it up and reorders things and kind of just creates these ambient backgrounds that create these beds. And so I would do those in the demos, and then when we would go record with the orchestra, I would make sure we isolated the woodwinds so that we could run and process them through this pedal. So there's the kind of an organic quality, but then also a slight synthetic kind of repurposing of this organic material.
Hints of John Carpenter's Escape from New York.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Is that intentional?
No, thank you. It was not, but I appreciate that. Yeah.
Is he one of your favorite composers?
He's great. I mean, actually, Escape from New York I have not seen yet, but which is I know. But I love The Thing. Big fan of The Thing. Halloween, obviously, and I mean, he's written some incredible film music. Yeah.
Yeah. Even in your Skeleton Crew, it's like there's a little bit of Halloween in there.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
A little bit of Big Trouble in Little China right there.
I mean, cool. Yeah, which is a great movie. Great movie.
Yeah.
Do you have a specific creative writing process?
I wish I did. I think my specific creative writing process is just being really scared at the beginning, and then just trying to be like, what am I doing? And then
It's like using, it's not really getting into the AI, but how much of it is using computer?
I mean, well, so I definitely don't use AI for anything, but my whole process is on my computer, because just the nature of these days is everyone wants to hear the demo, and the demo has to be really mocked up, and because back in the day, obviously before you could do all these sequencing and stuff, you see all those videos of John Williams and Steven Spielberg sitting at the piano, and he's like, it's going to sound like this, and he's like, I like that theme, and it's like great, and then they're like, he's playing, like they have the moviola next to them, and he's playing like some the asteroid theme, and but definitely people like to see a lot more how it's going to work with the picture, and so kind of like you have to mock everything up these days, and so there's and also just editing-wise, it's so much easier to be just moving stuff around, and you can pick up chunks, move it over there, and make sure things are really lining up with the picture. I think that way is great, and I love it. But it's just in terms of, especially on a TV schedule too, it's just you don't have the time. You have to just kind of but I definitely aspire to get off of the computer as much as I can, because we're on the screens too much.
Without giving too much away, is there something for VisionQuest that you're specifically excited for people to hear or experience?
There's a few ostinatos that the showrunner really fell in love with, that over the course of the show became their own motifs and themes and stuff, there's a few cues that I enjoy, and I think we kind of just especially my favorite thing really is just the show is kind of wacky. It's its own. It's a little odd. It's a little quirky. It's playful. It's weird, and that stuff always excites me.
What is the best piece of advice your dad ever gave you, and the worst piece of advice your dad ever gave you?
one of the best pieces of advice he ever gave me was don't be too precious about things because you're obviously the cut's changing and you have to just get it done first. And if you get the worst version of the idea out, then you can always refine it back. So and then then the worst piece would probably be. I don't remember what it was, what specifically it was, but I remember he gave me some note about I was working on a Netflix film and there was like this one guitar thing going through the whole piece that I got really excited about. And when I sometimes every now and then I'll send him something to be like, hey, do you have any thoughts? He was like, take that guitar thing out. And I was like, I like it. I'm going to keep it. And then when I showed it to the director, he was like, I love this. And so I was like, yeah. But no.
And that was the what project?
It was for a movie that I just finished up called Contra el Huracán. It's a Mexican film that should be coming out hopefully within the next year or so. But it's great. It's about a hurricane. It's about these two brothers who come together through that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right, so for anyone who knows John Carpenter music, are you hearing a little bit of Escape from New York? Are you hearing a little bit of Big Trouble in Little China? I'm hearing a lot of that, and I think because he's such a big fan, Mick Giacchino is a big fan of John Carpenter's scores. I think that just seeped into his consciousness.
It could, and he was also talking about how Vision is kind of half man, half machine, so he wanted some of that music in there. You have orchestral music, but then you have synth in there, and you have to marry the two. And that's a lot of what John Carpenter does.
Yeah.
So
very much.
I think it all kind of converged.
Yeah. When he said that VisionQuest is a lot playful, it's a lot quirky, and there's a lot of wackiness in there.
Yeah.
I thought, they're using the same kind of tone from WandaVision.
Yeah, he also said it's about family.
Yeah.
At the very beginning. So yes, this is definitely going to be one of those more smaller stories in the Marvel Universe, which I am here for. It's that WandaVision corner of our MCU galaxy that we love.
No big galactic conflicts, no Doctor Dooms or Thanoses.
No. Yeah. Just our lovely people that we love.
When he said playful and quirky and wacky, okay, I'm on board.
He did hint that characters that show up, he'll use their themes. Does this mean Agatha?
Most
I don't
likely.
know.
Yeah,
I'm so excited. Yay.
All right, next we're going to hear from Claudia Sarne, who tells us what went into the making of her new Supergirl soundtrack.
What's all these fuzzies? Are those mics? No way. Oh my God, those are amazing. I love that.
Feel free to pet them.
With kind of the Superman world, like Superman has had such kind of an iconic sound since John Williams in the 1970s, but Supergirl doesn't have that. So how did you approach this? Yet. Supergirl now has this.
Yes, thank you.
But how did you approach having the history of that and giving Supergirl her own sound?
So it's funny, someone just asked me that on the last episode. It was really, I think it was so, when Craig was first talking about this, it was really, really important to them and to me that she have her own musical stamp, her own motif, her own musical identity. So that really, the first scene I did on it was, it grew out of, they loved this scene that I had scored. I mean, this was a very short time frame we had as well. I didn't have, the benefit of a huge amount of time, which was good or bad, depending on how you look at it. So I wrote a theme for her, and they loved it, and then I had orchestrated it in a couple of different ways. It worked really well, one being the scene you just saw, one being another scene later on in the movie where she's, kicking ass. And I think just the question is how important was it, right? Or what was the question again?
Kind of giving Supergirl
her own identity.
Her own identity.
I think it's absolutely paramount. I associate the theme every time. It's simple. It's so effective. It's so indicative of him. You don't even have to have, the minute you hear it. But we've also listened to it for 30 years or whatever it is. So it has been kind of drummed into us to a great degree, like in 1970 whatever when that came out, we'd never heard it before, so it maybe took 10 years for that to be like, okay, that's it, that's the nail, that's the deal right there. So we'll see if this sticks with it. I think it's paramount. I associate all these iconic superheroes with iconic soundtracks, with Star Wars. I mean, like the rhythm of it, you know, the military sort of marches of it, and the love themes in it. You know, it's totally inseparable for me. But I'm a musician, so I'm not going to speak at it from a visual standpoint. But to me, music imprints just as much as visual does, and it's so much. It's such a shorthand. For me, music is such a shorthand, and also kind of does what words can't. You know, you can play a theme and you immediately know where you're sort of going with things. You're immediately brought into the world of what that is. And that's, to me, is the magic of what we do, you know.
My favorite thing about the movie is that she's got all the powers. We know she's got all the powers. It's hard to develop the stakes in an action scene, but she's either impaired or she's operating without her powers. She's drunk. How do you create the action scene that has that extra element to it?
I think when we were doing it in the arc of the character, like the main theme doesn't actually play properly in its full iteration and its full glory until you see her pretty close to the end when she comes out of the water and she's in the suit. She's no longer impaired on any level. She's not being poisoned. She's not drunk. But she's found her meaning and purpose, and that's really when it plays, because that was the moment of impact when she comes out of the water and she's found her direction, she's found what it is that's important to her, and she's found the sort of purity that sort of Superman has in his quest. You see it in her in that scene. So that's why there was a more hinting toward the theme. There's more sad versions of the theme. There's sort of less orchestrated versions of it. It's much more degraded. It's much more motif. We would use motif rather than a full statement, and that's to a great extent why it was held off until that sort of statement piece where she's, you know, she comes out of the water, she goes in, she saves Ruthie, and then she goes in to save the brides.
Can you talk about any musical Easter eggs that reference possible either previous DCU films or like the Superman films you were talking about that are so integral to our culture?
There are a couple, like in this. There's a couple of little flute. You can barely hear it, but there was some rhythmic flute stuff that was in there. Obviously in that, there's an end scene where they're in Clark's apartment, and that's got a very vague reference to Superman's theme, and then they come together, you know, they're kind of swimming together at the end there. There wasn't time on this to really go into doing some super sort of under the scenes stuff because we were so sort of pressed for getting everything done, getting it all sealed and delivered. But yeah, that's a lovely idea. I love that.
Supergirl is going in this movie through a lot of trauma, a lot of emotional weight through that. How did you musically kind of evolve that process?
I think that's what we went from, like a sort of synth and guitar world where you see her kind of messy and she's kicking ass and all the rest of it. And then once we hear the Argo sequence and the Argo story, and there's a lot more orchestration involved, I feel like it filled out the color of what that was. And we had a sort of a statement of her theme in the minor, you know, when she's taking off from Earth, we just saw it. Which was kind of establishing the theme. You hadn't heard the theme before then, but it's kind of giving it to you with a slightly different perspective on it. So taking it from there, and then when we go out, then we get into action stuff, and then that was the evolution of it. Like as she's becoming who she's meant to be within the arc of the story, we hoped, or I hope that the music would follow that. You know, starting with the sequential stuff and the guitars, and then moving into more orchestration, and then the hints of it, and then finally the sort of statement at the end. That's what the intent was.
At what point in your life did you know that this is what I wanted to do with the rest of my life? Was it a movie, was it a show, or a video game?
What you mean composing?
Yeah.
Honestly, I still have a hard time calling myself a composer because I'm like, that sounds so lofty. Like I'm not, like I'm not, whatever, Sibelius, it's such a big word, composer. But I think I'm so lucky to be able to, I still say I write music for films and TV. I mean, my mother tells people I'm a composer because she was, but I'm saying that's what I say now because I don't know that in my own heart that I've sort of gotten to, that sort of grandiose level, but I always wanted to make music. I've always wanted to make music since I was a little kid. I was writing songs and little musicals when I was a kid. And, I've had some sidebars on the way. I joined bands, I've played on other people's records. And then when we got our first, what was really a devastating point for me, I was on a label here, everything went to crap, and then we got our first TV show. So it was like this lemons out of lemonade situation, and we worked with Alan Hughes, who's one of the greatest, to my mind, just fantastic directors, and he gave us our first show, which is show Touching Evil. So then I saw this whole other doorway open, and I was in my 20s, and I was like, okay, I could see, and actually I just told Michael Giacchino, like, I went to do an orchestration session and they took us to one of his sessions on Lost. I remember going, oh wow, like this is everything I ever wanted to do, was like, you can go in and you can make sound on things and you can talk to people and like, hey, try this, and it was exciting to me, and it was incredibly generous of him to allow these students to just kind of come in and, hear his session. I'm not letting students in on my session, but so that was wonderful, and I hoped I'd be able to make it work, And I worked for many years as part of a team because I had kids and all the rest of it. And it's difficult to really, give yourself over to something when you've got other responsibilities. And it's it's not like work just comes, there's probably 1,000 composers if you swing a cat, you're going to hit a few composers. So everybody, a lot of people make music. So I feel incredibly fortunate to be working. But I always wanted to make music. That was my big dream.
Oh, thank you very much.
I am so excited that we were able to talk to Claudia, and now, Richard, we have seen Supergirl.
Yes.
We hadn't seen it at the time of talking
We
with
were
her.
going to see it.
Yes.
But we're going to wait until it comes on the HBO Max so we can see it for free. But she just sold the movie so much that we rented it on whatever that was.
Amazon Prime, yes. Yeah.
And you know what? It was well worth the $20.
Absolutely. Yes. I'm so glad we were able to do that. And now editing back her roundtable, what she said really made sense.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
All right, now let's get into the first half of the power team of Kris Bowers and Michael Dean Parsons, who scored Bridgerton and Spider-Noir.
So first, let's talk with Kris Bowers.
You composed the music for Bridgerton,
Yes.
and it's known for their Vitamin String Quartet covers of
Yes.
famous songs. But did that change how you approached the score? Like, when did you know that they were going to use that when you started scoring, and how did that?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I didn't know until my first spotting session of the first episode, but I had already started writing music before that point. And so we were in this trial and error period where they told me they wanted it to be this fresh take on the Regency era. And my first instinct was to write a bunch of classical style music and then chop it up into samples and make like pop music out of it. And that didn't work. And they're like, that's not what we want. And so then I was like, okay, maybe I'll write music of the period, but record it really in a modern way and make it sound alive in that way. But it just fell flat and sounded like it was period specific. And at some point I had to write a theme for the main couple in the first season on the piano because they were using it in the scene. And the director gave me some Ravel piano pieces, and like that opened up my mind for beautiful, and it made me think about the era completely differently. So then that was the first window. But then we had that spotting session, and I remember hearing Thank You Next in that first episode and realizing that it was so smart that it put us as an audience immediately into the headspace of these characters, because we all would, if you know that song, have a relationship with what that song is about. So now you know what these characters are thinking as they go into this hall. And so what changed for me at that point was realizing that if I look more to pop music for melody inspiration, for like rhythmic inspiration, for tempo inspiration, then the music that I write, even if it has a classical instrumentation, is going to feel more pop and modern. So from that point on, if you listen to a lot of the score, it's like really the rhythms and the way the syncopation and all that stuff is actually more inspired by pop music than it is classical music.
Does your creative process change in that way? Like doing Spider versus Bridgerton, which is, more classical versus something more upbeat or,
Yeah, it does. The beginning of the process is the same, where I'm looking at the emotion of each character and trying to find a way to represent that with a melody and all of that. But then the next step is where it starts to split, where for Bridgerton, I might look at, classical pieces or pop pieces that maybe also speak to that feeling and try to see if there's something about the instrumentation or the pace or anything that makes me feel that way, and start to try to incorporate some of those choices into this theme that I've written. And then with Spider-Noir, it's kind of the same thing, where the theme for Ben is based on who he is as a person and his humanity and that emotion. But then immediately, as we start to write it to the episode, it needs a certain instrumentation, a certain sound. And so then it's looking at noir scores or, superhero scores or modern random references, where a lot of our references started getting, I remember talking to Michael about like Nine Inch Nails references or a reference.
I was going to ask you about Atticus and Trent.
Oh yeah, I'm huge. Yeah, I feel like their texture and sound design is always so great. So yeah, like we'll talk about that. Or I saw a documentary once I was watching for fun, and I was like, there's something about this percussion sound that's really interesting. We should look at that for Spider-Noir. And so looking for inspiration anywhere, it's almost like when you work on a project, it creates this filter that then you see the whole world through that filter, where like if you see something, it's like, oh, that'd be perfect for this thing I'm working on. And each project has a different filter.
With the Spider-Noir, balancing noir and kind of that modern superhero, what did you use or what instruments did you use to try to like balance that out?
Yeah, I think for the noir aspect, it was definitely just leaning into the orchestra and having these swelling orchestral moments. And even some of the prepared piano, like Michael said on the panel, is inspired by Jerry Goldsmith and Chinatown. So like certain elements were also inspired by the way that those composers approached action music. And I was thinking about the King Kong score is another one, or Double Indemnity is another score that we looked at a lot. And then on the modern side, actually before I leave the noir stuff, using the theremin I think was another big thing, because it's such an old synth and it became the way to represent both sci-fi and also like psychological disturbances in that period. And so using that sound was a way to kind of nod both to noir, but also create this bridge into the modern. And then for the modern stuff, it was really just kind of anything that would come up. I think the guitar stuff was definitely driven by Oren, our filmmaker, who loved the sound of guitar and wanted some of that. We did talk about not having much in the way of, or not leaning on drum production, because what was interesting, we talked about being modern, and one of the first instincts is maybe to add some like drum production stuff, but what we found is that it actually starts to make it hard to not make it feel like a loop at some point. And also the great thing about some of those noir scores is that they didn't really lean on the percussion that much. The percussion is actually more of the color that accents things, as opposed to like this percussion track that's just going and going across everything. And so that really taught us to lean more on all these other instrumentations and then add any drum production like after the fact to like emphasize things, as opposed to starting with the drums as like a beat that creates a loop and then suddenly it starts to actually drag the scenes down.
The theremin is one of the most greatest instruments of all time.
Yeah, it's awesome.
When did you first hear it to know that I'm going to use that one day? Was it in Plan 9 from Outer Space? Was it the Beach Boys? When did you first hear that?
You know, it's funny. I actually I first heard it when I was in high school. I went to an arts high school here in LA, and for one of my friends who's actually one of my team members now, his family would have these concerts in their house. And I remember going to a concert and somebody played a bowed saw. And I was like, that's like such a random thing. But he played this like classical piece on bowed saw, and it was beautiful. And somebody said, that sounds like the theremin. And I was like, I don't know what that is. And so I went home and looked it up and then found some recordings of a theremin, or like went to the library and got a CD. So I can't even remember what that recording was, but I remember it being inspired by this bowed saw and wanting to find a sound that was similar to that.
Yeah. I absolutely love the score for The Wild Robot.
Thank you.
And I love how it opens for the I could use a boo sequence and just lets the score really tell a lot of the emotion. That was your first animated film.
Yeah.
What was the process like working through animation against live action?
Yeah, it was incredible because one of the biggest differences is that you usually start much earlier because they are oftentimes working on the film years in advance. And like, for live action, a lot of the years that people work on the film is in the script phase, but then once they start shooting, it's a pretty fast process from there to the end. Whereas for animation, they're working on the imagery at the same time as they're working on the story. And so they kind of need the composer in early because they're already starting to figure out what it looks like and what the pace is going to be. And so I Could Use a Boost, the first time I wrote music to that was to black and white pencil sketches. And so the process of watching something that carries all the emotion in the story and all the emotion in these black and white, simple, minimal sketches was really fascinating, because then you have to rely both on your filmmaker's ability to tell you what this is going to look like eventually, and reminding me that in that scene it was like, okay, right here you're actually going to see like thousands of geese. And so I have to imagine what that's going to look like and write music that feels like thousands of geese instead of music that sounds like just like Roz and Brightbill together, essentially. And using concept art, where like, even though you have these black and white pencil sketches version of the movie, they have all of this concept art where you walk into their space and the whole walls are filled with single images that look like paintings of what this film will eventually look like. And so really leaning on these references and using your imagination actually was like this more freeing experience for me, because then they're going to react sometimes to what the music's going to be, or I also don't have to worry about if I'm hitting everything, because I can trust that they're going to tell me, this actually needs to be bigger because it's going to be a much bigger moment, or this is going to be really dark actually. It doesn't look dark right now, but that's going to be darker, so make it dark, like make it a little bit grittier. And so that collaborative process, I think, becomes a bit more of a less siloed and less alone.
I love The Last Repair Shop.
Thank you.
And are you going to direct again? And
Yes, yeah.
What are you going to work on?
Yeah, I'm actually working on a documentary right now about a school here called Colburn that I went to school. Oh, you know Colburn? Oh, amazing, yeah.
My cousin is a professor there.
Really? What do they teach?
Violin.
Wow.
Yeah, Sam Fisher.
Sam Fisher, okay, I'll have to ask, yeah. We're making a series about basically different profiles, from students to faculty members to staff members, just looking at this community from different vantage points. So I'm directing that my friend Ben is producing for me. And then I'm writing a project about this vocalist named Roland Hayes, who's this amazing black vocalist in the early 20th century that I feel like people should know about. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all. Appreciate it. Thank you.
So now, as soon as we got the word to start with Kris, you immediately just jumped in there you were shot out of a gun, and with your Bridgerton questions.
Yes, I did.
You were not going to let Spider-Noir take over this conversation. You are right in there.
As much as I wanted to talk about Spider-Noir, we could talk about it with the other composer, but Kris Bowers was responsible for a lot of the Bridgerton score, and I've so enjoyed that soundtrack. Sometimes I'll have it on in the background as I'm just going around the house cleaning or working on some pictures, and it's so lovely. So I really wanted to learn about it.
Well, you weren't the only one.
No.
The other people at our press
the other
round
two
table.
women. Yes. Yes.
They jumped in with their Bridgerton questions too. They want to talk all about it.
And I thought what he had to say was very interesting, how he used more contemporary techniques, but with the musical instrumentation of that past, and it all kind of worked.
Maybe we'll watch some Bridgerton tonight. You can show me what that is.
Okay.
I kind of want to hear that now.
Okay. It's sexy time with Bridgerton.
Oh, there we go. So after Kris, we spoke with his composing partner, Michael Dean Parsons, and we talked a little bit more Bridgerton, of course, but we also want to talk about Spider-Noir and writing music simultaneously for black and white and color. And did it work?
Thank you so much.
You can state your name and social security number.
Yes, I'm Michael Dean Parsons.
All right.
And the social?
1111111.
Got it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Mine too.
Yeah, perfect.
All right, talking about Bridgerton, I'm very excited that we get to speak to you about this. How did you use instruments to take us back to that world?
You know, so I co-wrote the main theme for Bridgerton with Kris. I've contributed additional music on all of the season. I think one of the things I've always enjoyed about being a part of that project is this unique sound world that is in one hand, an ode to the time, but on the other hand is like very, very modern and very playful and something that's really unique. And that's something I enjoyed about Spider-Noir as well, is being able to blend these different influences and pull from time periods or scores that you love.
Did you realize it was going to be played at every wedding forever after?
Honestly, that's been one of the really cool things about having done the main theme with him is just seeing those kinds of things. I mean, admittedly, I do go to YouTube and I'm like, Bridgerton main theme, live performance. And it's insane. You see like thousands of, people like propose to their significant other like while a little string quartet's playing it. So that's been extremely gratifying, yeah.
You spoke a little bit about watching noir films.
Yeah.
What was kind of like the creative process you had with Spider-Man and using that and kind of making sure that it's your own organic theme for the show instead of classics that you spoke of on
right.
the panel?
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of the big challenge and joy of the show, was that on the one hand, you have to play in both of these genres. And for that, I think it was just like a lot of really nerdy study, listening to tons and tons of scores, trying to study the techniques, trying to look at how instruments were used, looking at how they were used against picture. And then the other side of it was like taking all of that study and trying to just do something that's really true to you. And so I think we reached a point in the process where we started to just really trust our guts and go, yes, this is half noir, it's half superhero, but more importantly, we're trying to get in the head of Ben Reilly, we're trying to get in the heads of these characters, and we're trying to create memorable themes that could only exist for these characters. So it wasn't really thinking about like, how can I write a villainous theme? It was like, Silvermane, he's killing people while he's whispering, so maybe we should have something that's like really quiet and eerie and like kind of plays against that like grand villainous presence he has. So yeah, it's easy to get overwhelmed with the genres, but just like taking it back to the show is always the answer.
But also, you're writing for Nicolas Cage.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
It's insane.
Did that play a part in?
Oh, for sure. I mean, the performance is so extravagant and dramatic and amazing. And really, the most helpful thing on that front was we were talking with the showrunner Oren, and he told us that when Ben Reilly got bit by the spider, he became a spider. And he's constantly trying to just become human again. And you see these shots of him like watching Humphrey Bogart films, and he's like imitating the lines. And so, that's always the question when you see something that's kind of really dramatic or comedic is, how much do I play into that? And so to have that narrative idea that we could always play into like, this is someone who's trying to like just get through these situations was really helpful. Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about working with the sound mixers? Because in the kinds of projects that we were talking about, there's a lot of noise.
Yeah.
So talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's a difficult thing in the process that sound and music are often happening at the same time and not necessarily in conversation. So you have, when we're working, we receive a sound effects track, but it might not be the finals. So basically what we do is we try to be as aligned with the temp sound effects as possible. If someone hits someone and there's a large punch, maybe that's something to either accentuate with it or we pull out for it. And then what happens on the dub stage when we're actually all finally get together is you have to make decisions and you go, should sound win here or should music win here? Like, is this, maybe we have a sound moment for 15 seconds and then we let music shine, but it's really just a constantly evolving part of it. Yeah.
How much visuals before, do you get? Do you start do you kind of like know the project and automatically think, okay,
Yeah.
like I already have this theme in my head, or do you have to kind of watch?
Yeah, it's different for every project. I mean, I just did a action film where I had the script 3 years before it was shot, and so by the time they shot the movie, I had written 50 pieces of music just to like explore concepts. In the case of Spider, we had all 8 episodes basically finished before we even wrote a note. So that allowed us to, from the moment we wrote a theme in episode 1, we were able to stress test, like, well, the theme works in episode 1, but will it work in episode 3? Or when the character has this dramatic transformation, will it work in episode 8? And so we were able to like really have an arc of all of these different characters' stories. And that was particularly helpful because we had a thematic approach where like we had 6 or 7 main character themes, and then like minor characters maybe had a motif or a sound design element or something. And so we were very, very, I keep using the word, but it's very true. We were very nerdy about like making sure that the whole thing was crafted in a specific way.
Did some music work better in black and white on Spider-Noir than in color?
We had this conversation many times. What I'll say is it may have been because they wanted us to work from it, or it may have just been because I never asked, but we were only ever sent the black and white. And so we wrote the whole thing just to the black and white. That said, a huge part of the concept was we're not just playing homage or pastiche with the noir genre. We're trying to do something that is influenced by it, but also has this superhero aspect and this like, new world that could only be here. And so, the score in black and white was already fairly modern in some ways. And so when we did watch the color eventually, we were like, oh, it's good that we planted the electronic theremin here. Or like, oh, it's good that we had the electric guitar, because it kind of works in both worlds. And I think the color, like, it feels old still. It's not just a true color. It's like, it's almost that look of black and white footage that's been colorized. So still very much felt like the project to us.
There was an episode I think you mentioned that needed to get weirder.
Yes.
Could you talk about how you made it weirder?
Yeah, man, that was. I'm just gonna get real technical here.
Please.
I mean, I don't know. So much about this project was like being able to look at just films from the 50s and 60s that we loved in general. So one thing that came to mind was 2001: A Space Odyssey and the use of Ligeti's crazy choir pieces. And so for the first time in Spider, we used these crazy vocals that were like making clusters and singing in ways that people probably shouldn't sing. And then in addition to that, we just did every crazy thing we could think of. We made full marching band arrangements just to record them, slow them down, pitch them down. We would record like a tuba player, but instead of just playing a note, they'd be like blowing as hard as they could into the instrument to make the sound all disjointed. Like every wrong way of doing something. We were like hitting the inside of a piano with hammers and stuff. Like because we already thought the show was kind of weird in its sound. So it's just like, throw everything at it basically, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Black and white, black and white.
I had a lot of pre-written questions, but you came in there with some nice, big, overarching questions that really got them to think. So thought that was nice.
I like throwing in there some of the lighter questions.
Yeah.
But it shows that you did your homework.
I did.
You definitely did your homework.
Everyone looked to me. By the end of the roundtables, everyone in that roundtable was looking to me to start.
Well, so was I.
I had my big notepad there. No one else had notepads. Yeah. So, Skywalkers, what do you think? Did you learn something about these scores? Did you learn something new? Are you eager to see some of these properties now because of what they talked about? We had a blast, and we want to thank White Bear PR and also the team at Musical Anatomy for a Superhero for giving us access to their press rooms.
We'll see you next year.
Shout-outs, Skywalker shout-outs. Which Skywalkers get props from here in Neverland? Who was tweeted out? Shout-out. Who was photobombed? Shout-out. Who was shared a post? Shout-out.
All right, Skywalkers, here's our favorite part of doing these episodes. It's shouting you out. We want to thank you from the bottom of our heart for supporting us over the last 13 years and becoming a member of the Skywalking Force. which is our Patreon.
Yes, every month we shout out your name. So here's to Anthony Kakias,
Benjamin Avachuko,
Blessed Cheesemaker,
Bryn McKinnon,
Carl Fox,
Cat Lava 97, who is Carrie Hatch,
Chickafent,
Cloyd Hatch,
Courtney Turkel,
Dale Erdman,
Dave Kerwin,
Don Glover,
Glenn Stein.
Hey, Glenn, right there is in the sky chat.
Yeah.
Gotham Knight,
Jeff Caffrey,
Jeremy and Heather Hunt,
Joey Pittman,
John Liang,
John Zancanaro,
Julie Caruana,
Julie and James Gildersleeve,
Justin Smith,
Cato Toby Ryder,
Kelly Turkel,
Kristen Carr,
Laura Bryce,
Leanne Nelson,
Meredith Duckworth,
Michael Corbett,
Michael Knipp,
Mike Ward,
Nancy Steinman,
Patty Hammond,
Patty Nazarian,
Peter and Norma Heitman,
Scott Carmichael,
Scott Hume,
Taryn Bench,
Derek Beebe,
Wesley Meekholmes,
William Megalio,
and Wynn Patterson. Thank you to one and to all. We cannot stop thanking you enough because this goes a long way. So much, much appreciated.
So we want to thank you, Skywalking Force, and if you want to become a member of the Skywalking Force, simply head to skywalkingforce.com. Well, that wraps up episode 569 of
Skywalking Through Neverland.
Thank you once again to the Kiner family, Mick Giacchino, Claudia Sarne, Kris Bowers, and Michael Dean Parsons for all their insightful behind-the-scenes stories.
And we want to thank all you Skywalkers who joined us for our live recordings and weighed in. Glenn Stein is weighing in right now, saying that he learned a lot about the Thrawn organ.
Oh.
But I expect I will learn a whole lot more. And
Nice.
yes, you shall.
All right, well, be sure to subscribe on YouTube and follow us on our socials at Skywalking Pod.
And join us every Monday night at 6 p.m. Pacific time for Things We Want to Share. This is our weekly live stream where we share stories, we play trivia, and things that you want to share.
Now, you can find all of our books at skywalkingthroughneverland.com/book, including a pre-order link to our new So You Think You Know Star Wars 50 Years of Trivia and Fun Facts from a Galaxy Far, Far Away.
By Chronicle Books.
By Chronicle Books. Ugh. Now, do you want to support the show? You can join the Skywalking Force on Patreon for ad-free episodes, early access, and bonus episodes. You simply head to skywalkingforce.com.
Big thanks to our sponsor, Small World Vacations. Their Disney and Universal trip planning service is how much?
It's $0.
It's free. So visit smallworldvacations.com and tell them Skywalking Through Neverland sent you.
And remember, Spirit Jersey has Jar Jar Spirit jerseys and other Disney licensed clothing you can buy outside the parks. You can head to spiritjersey.com and get free shipping with code SKYWLKNVD. This code is in our show notes.
Now we are part of the Skywalking Network.
Skynet.
Home to more great shows like Talking Apes,
Star Warsologies,
Collectopolis,
and much, much more.
Now stick around for bloopers and other fun bits that didn't make it into the show. And
always remember,
spend $20 and go watch Supergirl on HBO Max.
And
Neverland on Alderaan.
I'm hitting record, and you're going to do your clappy claps, please.
All right, tell me when.
I just told you.
Say when.
Now.
Now?
Now. No, that was perfect.
Okay. I wasn't feeling it.
Okay, let's try again.
Hey, Skywalkers! Do you want to know what goes into your favorite scores? Favorite soundtracks or scores?
Either. They're interchangeable.
Hey, Skywalkers! Do you want to... Blah! There it goes. There it goes. Hey, look at those names to the left. They are part of the Skywalking Force, our Patreon.
Become a producer yourself and check out all the Disney Plus themed bonus content available depending on the level you subscribe.
Become a member of the elite Skywalking Force at skywalkingforce.com.